Hi and Assalamualaikum to our lecturer Dr. RAMLAN. In this video, we will be presenting on refugees issue in Southeast Asia. First and foremost, I would like to introduce our group members: AZMIMA, Nur SAFFIA, AFIQAH SYAHIRAH, MUHAMAD AFIQ, Nur ARISYA, and IMRAN AZIZ. People who have been compelled to leave their country due to persecution, war, or violence is considered a refugee. A refugee is someone who has a legitimate fear of being persecuted because of their ethnicity, religion, nationality, political opinions, or participation in a specific social group. They either can't or won't go back home. The main reasons that people leave their nations as refugees are war and ethnic, tribal and religious conflict. Myanmar is one example of a refugee-producing country. Even though they are fewer in numbers, refugees in Southeast Asia still put their lives in danger in effort to get to safety and secure a better future for their family. Southeast Asian countries, particularly Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, which are widely regarded as safe havens, have long welcomed a sizable number of refugees and asylum seekers from different nationalities who seek safety and help outside of their own countries. However, because there are no national frameworks, refugees and asylum seekers are in a vulnerable position and cannot exercise their basic rights of protection. The loss of lives of individuals who are on the move and breaches of human rights can be avoided by providing safe and legal avenues for refugees, as well as regional collaboration to help those in need.
Assalamualaikum and NORSHAM, and now I will explain on the problems on refugees in Southeast Asia. So the first one is lack of legal protection. In some Southeast Asian countries, there are no strong laws and rules to protect refugees and people seeking asylum. This is a big problem because it leaves them in a state of uncertainty and danger. They may be mistreated or taken advantage of because they don't have the legal protections they need. They also struggle to access important things like healthcare, education, and jobs, and this makes it hard for them to reboot their lives and find a safe place to live. They need better laws to keep them safe and make sure they are treated fairly. The second one is limited regional cooperation. When it comes to dealing with the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia, there is a problem of limited cooperation among the countries in the region. They don't work together as much as they should, and this creates difficulties. Because each country has its own approach and policies, there can be differences in how refugees are protected and supported. This means that some refugees may receive better care and help in one country, while others may not receive the same level of assistance in another country. This lack of cooperation also makes it harder to share resources, knowledge, and strategies for managing the refugee crisis. It is important to have stronger regional cooperation, where countries work together and coordinate their efforts to ensure that refugees are treated fairly and receive the support they need. And the last one is irregular migration and human trafficking. So irregular migration and human trafficking are big problems in Southeast Asia. People who are trying to escape dangerous situations like refugees often have to travel through irregular and unauthorized routes to reach safety. They may have to rely on smugglers who promise to help them, but these smugglers can be very dangerous and take advantage of them. The journey can be extremely risky with dangerous crossings and harsh conditions. Once they reach their destination, refugees can become victims of human trafficking, where they are forced to work without pay, are exploited, or even subjected to physical or sexual abuse. This happens because they are vulnerable and don't have the proper legal protection. It is important to address these problems and find safer ways for refugees to migrate so that they are not exposed to such risks and can find protection and support.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is AZMIMA binti ANUAR. I would like to continue for this presentation. So for the factor outbreak for this issue is the refugees crisis in Southeast Asia has encouraged many stakeholders to work for change in refugee policies to help better serve the refugee community and its many needs. This includes, but not limited to, academic, government, official, non-government organization, the NGO, and non-profit leaders practitioners, and the public. Two problems with tackle refugees issues in this region, particularly in Malaysia, are the lack of data and documentation surrounding refugees issues and the lack of laborious baseline assessment on various socio-economic dimensions for the community. Without these two pieces, it is very difficult to credibly advocate for refugee rights in public and to create policies that factually address refugee needs. So the parties involved is for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. It is UNHCR. Is the parties involved and various efforts have been made by the international community in the past years to settle these issues, including recent effort at repatriation despite the lack of safe conditions for the refugees. The state-varied response has also resulted in a lack of uniformity in the strategy adopted by country-specific UN agencies working on this issue. The uniting factors in this region is the non-ratification of the 1951 Convention on the Status of Refugees, resulting in ad hoc policies that govern refugee status and protection. Countries in the region have adopted different responses toward the refugees crisis. The state's varied response has also resulted in a lack of uniformity in the strategy adopted by country-specific working on this issue, while co-leads the joint response plan, which coordinated by multiple agencies include UNHCR, IOM, and UNFPA. Thailand does not allow UNHCR to even conduct the refugee status determination process. It depends on the country of asylum. Refugees face a variety of protection concerns related to livelihood, education, health, legal, and other.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Imran. So I will be presenting on the advantages and disadvantages for the parties involved. So apart from the international organizations such as UNHCR, we also have the refugees and the host countries itself as the parties involved. So we proceed with the first advantage is there will be an availability of humanitarian assistance where the assistance may came from the support of economical, financial, security, and others. Apart from that, there will be an open borders for some countries in the region itself. So the next advantage is the diversified culture. As we all know, different countries have different culture. When the refugees from the another countries coming to the that particular countries, that host countries, then there will be diversified in the culture itself. So we proceed with the third one, which is increased economic benefits, such as the increase of labor force, participation, sorry, participation and consumptions. So host countries also benefit from the skills that the refugees might bring from their country. The last one is promotes human rights. So the principle of human rights might be promoted when the refugees is coming to the host countries, whereby a lot of countries um, will try to fight for the refugees' rights and also the human rights in the future. Next, we proceed with the disadvantages. So the first one is risk of exploitation. So the exploitation can be happen due to several reasons. For example, language barriers, where refugees may not speak the language of their host countries. So this will be make uh, complicated and also difficult for the refugees to communicate with the authorities and other people who could help them. Next one is maybe because of their lack of knowledge. So refugees may not be aware of their rights under international law. So this can make them more vulnerable to exploitation. Next is social tensions. So social tension can be impacted from several aspects. For example, on the economic competition, so refugees may compete with local residents for jobs, housing, and other resources. So this can lead to the resentment and tension among the host populations. So the next one can be impact on the cultural differences. So refugees may have different cultures and customs that the host than the host populations. So this can lead to the misunderstanding and also conflict in the host countries. The next one is security risk. So the first, sorry, refugees may be involved in crime, so such as drug trafficking, human trafficking, and petty crime. So this can lead to increased insecurity in the host countries. So next one is the border security. The presence of refugees can make it difficult to control borders and prevent the infil- sorry, infiltration of terrorists and criminals. So this can increase the security risk of the host countries. So the last disadvantages is limited resources. So refugee may compete with the local population for food. For example, this can lead to the food shortage and increased prices. So apart from that, refugees may need access of water for drinking, cooking, and also sanitation. So this can put a strain on water resources, especially in the areas where water is already scarce. Next, for example, in Malaysia, currently the refugees have the potential to continue their studies. Sorry. So this can put a strain on education resources, especially in areas where there is already a shortage of schools and also teachers.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad AIMAN and I would like to present about the suggestion and recommendation for the topic of the refugees issues in Southeast Asia. First suggestion is to strengthen legal frameworks. Southeast Asian countries should develop and implement comprehensive legal frameworks that recognize the rights of refugees and establish clear procedures for their asylum claims. This includes enacting laws that prohibit arbitrary detention and forced deportations, and ensuring that refugees have access to legal assistance to navigate the asylum process. Governments can seek technical support and guidance from international organizations to develop and implement these frameworks effectively. Next, the second recommendation is to strengthen anti-trafficking efforts. The governments should intensify efforts to combat human trafficking and exploitation of refugees. This involves enhancing law enforcement capabilities to detect and prosecute trafficking networks. Governments should also strengthen border controls and improve coordination between relevant agencies such as immigration, law enforcement, and social services to identify and respond to cases of trafficking effectively. Support services should be provided to survivors of trafficking, including access to shelter, counseling, and legal assistance. And last but not least, the third suggestion is to foster regional cooperation. Southeast Asian countries should engage in regional dialogues and cooperation mechanisms to address the challenges collectively. This can involve sharing best practices, exchanging information, and coordinating efforts to improve the protection and well-being of refugees in the region. Regional initiatives can be established to enhance collaboration on issues such as legal frameworks, information sharing, and capacity building. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or also known as ASEAN, and its member states can play a crucial role in facilitating such cooperation and promoting a regional approach to refugee protection.
Thank you, AFIQ. My name is AFIQAH and I will discuss the conclusion for this presentation about the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia. This is a complex and challenging issue with many factors contributing to the problem. One of the main challenges is the lack of political will to address the issue. Many governments in the region are reluctant to accept refugees, fearing that they will strain resources or pose a security risk. This lack of political will has made it difficult to develop a coordinated regional response to the crisis. Another challenge is the lack of international support. The international community has not provided sufficient funding or assistance to address the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia. This has made it difficult to provide refugees with protections and assistance they need. Despite this challenge, there have been some positive development in recent years. The established has the Comprehensive Plan of Action (CPA) for the Rohingya people is a major step forward. The CPA is a regional agreement that aims to find a solution to the Rohingya refugee crisis. The increased involvement of the international community in addressing the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia is another positive development. The United Nations and other international organizations are providing more funding and assistance to refugees in the region. The growing recognition of the need for regional cooperation to address the refugee crisis is also a positive development. Governments in the region are beginning to work together to find solutions to the problem. However, there is still much work to be done. Governments in the region need to continue to enhance law enforcement, strengthen border control, and improve coordination. They also need to enact laws that protect the rights of refugees and prohibit arbitrary detentions. Regional cooperation is also essential to address the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia. Government needs to encourage regional dialogues, exchange information, and coordinate efforts to improve protection. I urge all stakeholders to continue working together to address the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia. We must ensure that refugees have access to the protection and assistance they need. We must also work to find sustainable solutions that will allow refugees to rebuild their life in safety and dignity. So some specific actions that can be taken to address the refugee crisis in Southeast Asia is first, government in the region should enhance law enforcement and strengthen border control to prevent trafficking and exploitations of refugees. Second is government should enact law that protect the rights of refugees and prohibit arbitrary detentions. And lastly, government should encourage regional dialogues and exchange information to improve coordination of effort to protect refugees. The international community should provide more funding and assistance to refugees in Southeast Asia. I believe that by working together, we can make a difference in the life of refugees in Southeast Asia. We can help them to rebuild their life and find a safe and secure future. The refugee crisis in Southeast Asia is a complex and challenging issue, but it is one that we cannot ignore. The refugees who have fled to the region are fleeing violence, persecutions, and war. They deserve our compassion and support. Thank you for your time.